So these are the tools for mixing the paint. I have some white paint here, so you're going to need some of that. And then I picked a dark blue. This is French ultramarine blue, and I picked it because out of the tube it's this value right here. It's the darkest value. I don't have to mix any black with it, so I'm really only mixing white paints with to get the stuff in between. And different colors are different values out of the tube, and so that's kind of a deal. And so like red usually comes right down in the middle. So if you have a red, you have to mix some white with it here to get this value. And you actually have to mix burnt umber goes here, and red is here. And you mix those two colors to get together to get this one over here. Just to kind of let you know where we're going with some of these things. So let's get at it. Tools. Here's these are called palette knives, and you can use them for mixing the paints. They have a little bit of a pointy edge and stuff like that. If you're at home, a lot of times you don't really have that, because these are kind of expensive, and so I didn't include them in the kits for people who might be doing stuff at home. But you can use just popsicle sticks. I've chopped off the end of them to make them kind of diagonal like this, because it's easier to mix the paints with having that little diagonal edge on those. And so I just took a popsicle stick over here, and then if you take your X-Acto knife like this, and it makes it easy for something you can use at home, and then just have it at an angle and then just kind of cut on it. With your X-Acto knife, and then eventually you should be able to hopefully break that off. I had some had a tool here I could use on that one. Oh, there it is. You just take a pair of pliers or something like that, and then just comes right off, so that it's easy to make a mixing thing. If you have a little bit of sandpaper, say, oh, it's a little rough, Mr. White, on that one, a little bit of sandpaper like this, and then it's ready for mixing your paints. So you can make a palette knife pretty easy out of those things in order to make that work for you. But let's talk mixing paint. I'm going to start here. I'm going to put, when I squeeze this out, you'll kind of see, you don't need a lot of paint, but look how dark it is. It's the same darkness as the background here on what we're looking for. So I just wanted you to see about how much I just squeezed out a little bit of paint. That's probably plenty. When you are mixing paints and you're trying to make a mixture of values, okay? So these are a mixture of values, right? White is this one right here. Let's go ahead and throw that on our palette real quick. And so I don't need a ton of that either. Just a little bit on those, because if you mix too much, you end up throwing it out on those. And so now to get these other values in between here, we got to start with, we'd have to mix them together on that. Rule number 1, always start with the white and add the dark. Okay, so I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit of stuff here, probably a little more than what I would normally, but I'm going to use this to get this a little bit on those. So I did want a little bit of extra. Okay, and a little bit of this. This needs to go pretty dark, so I'm gonna be generous on that one. I'm gonna put a lot right there, and that is a ton. But remember, I'm going to take it and then fill up these other spots too on those. And so mixing the paints, all you're really doing is you're just taking the stuff here, swirling it around, squishing it, and maybe mixing it like it's some sort of batter or something like that. And you just mix it with the tools that you have, the palette knives. And so we do that. You can scrape it over. It does have a flat edge on it like that, so you can scrape it over and mix it. And it mixes up fairly fast on those. And so I added that much blue to my white, and I'm looking at it now, and I'm just going to smooth this out so maybe we can see that a little bit better compared it with the background. And so comparing this blue with the darker background, let's get the reflections out of there too, if we can see it. Maybe that, oh, look at that. That's a good view right there. And so we're looking at that one. That one is lighter. It looks almost perfect for this one over here, doesn't it? On those. So that's a good, I'm like, wow, way to go, hit that one like dead on. So, like I said, I was going to use some of this anyway. I'm just going to take a little bit of this out here, and I'm just going to set it right there on this next one. Let's see if that's a little bit better, that value. Yeah, that looks like it pretty much, let's get it on the angle. That pretty much matches up fairly well with that medium gray on there. But this one, this our friend over here, this needs to be a little bit darker. I'm going to go use my other tools that I have over here too. I'm going to scrape off my extra paint. And then I'm going to set this down. Oil paints seem to get everywhere on everything all the time. And so even if you're trying your best to be cleanly and cleaning up, it's gonna get someplace. But I'm going to try and prevent it as much as possible. Okay, so I have a little bit of that just sitting there for me. I need a little more blue here, so I'm going to squeeze out some blue in this one. Oh, that was a bunch of blue, huh? But I'm confident it's not going to go too dark. But best to sneak up on it. So you can use, like I said, the pointy tip is actually pretty good for mixing, and then using the slanted edge for putting it together too. Smushing it down, smush, 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 smush. Scrape some of this together, then swirling it around, scrape it into the middle like that, and then swirl it around. The main thing I'm looking for is a good value change between these paints. I'm gonna get my other. I find it's usually a little bit easier to actually have two of these things so that you can clean off your palette knives and the stuff that doesn't stick. So you scrape that off here, and then that's right. You just keep scraping it off. Then you use the tip, and the tip will get it off and like that. So that's pretty good. So I'm looking at those values here, and I'm comparing it to this one. So there's a value change, and I'm comparing it to the background. And I'm comparing it here. This needs to go a little bit darker, huh? Just a little bit darker. So let's get some more blue in there. Some dark pigments, they're really staining, and they change colors on things really, really fast. Other stuff, you keep on adding, you keep on adding, you keep on adding on that one. Okay, so let's mix in this blue. Oh, that's coming around. Look at that. Like I said, having the slanted tools there to make that come in there is really, really helpful. Okay, let's smooth that out a little bit so we can kind of see it by comparison. Okay, so I got that. I'm going to turn it on the angle a little bit so you can see the values. So that's pretty good, huh? That's matching up pretty good with our background. And we see that there is a noticeable value change. I'm just going to hold this right next to this one. Look how much of a value change that is, a jump from the one to the other on those. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to call that a success. I'm going to call that the right value that we're looking for on that. And now I'm just going to take and put that there. Okay. The next thing I need is I need another bit for this value. Now this isn't going to be an interesting one. I need a little bit of white, like that. And this one is it's not going to need hardly any paint at all from that blue. Let me do this. This is my scrap pile. Let me get another paper towel over here. I'm going to clean off some of these little palette knives that I have here. Clean that off real good. I'm going to set that over there. And then this one, I'm going to clean off a little bit. So I just have some residue of what's left from this paint here, and I'm going to mix that in with that. And I probably won't need much more than that, because this is a fairly light gray or light blue. Use the tip to mix them up, and scrapity scrapity. I think that's a pretty light gray, huh? or a light blue as far as we have going there. But you know, I think we can go just a little bit darker, because this is still a good jump, but this is too far, huh? That's just way too far on those. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to scoop up a little bit of this stuff, and I'm going to put it right in here. Not too much of it though, huh? Let's mix it up. I may have gotten too much in there. I hope not. Get some of the white back into it. Oh, it looks like it's working, huh? I'm going to clean this off real quick. Hold on. I want that. Okay, and let's mix it all up. Okay, let's smooth it out a little bit so we can kind of see what we have. So there we go. That looks like some good value changes. So I look at them from the side a little bit so I don't have as much of a reflection. Going from here to here to here. Now ignore the little white spot that I have right there, and then over to here. So that's a good value change, a good range of values. And so when I bring my painting in, okay, I'm ready to paint on. All right, I'm gonna do a painting on this guy right here. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to be matching my values. I'm going to start with my darks and look for the darkest darks, and that's probably going to be down over here somewhere, right, in the cast shadow. So I'm going to do that. Maybe some areas in through here that I'm working on, and I add those dark values first, and I gradually go lighter. That's opposite of what we do with the with our watercolor paints. Remember, we started dark was the last thing to put on with our watercolor paints, and it's just the opposite on this one here, on that. So what are we going to do with these paints now that we got them here? That's probably a good thing. Well, what are we going to do? One, I'm going to clean off my palette knives so I can scrape them on there. I don't want to get, I want to keep these as pure as possible on our stuff. I'm setting those there. Going to put this in the trash. We need a piece of cellophane. Let me grab some cellophane. Plastic wrap. Hold on. I have plastic wrap, and many of you at home will have plastic wrap too, if you're doing this stuff at home. I'm going to move this up just a little bit so we can make this work for us. And here's how you're going to store your stuff. You're going to store it in plastic wrap. So I get my piece and I stretch it out as best I can, like that, right? We're ready to go. Then I'm going to start with my light colors, and I'm just going to put them into the middle of the plastic wrap. So I'm going to take this guy here. I'm going to scrape off my white, and it's going to go right there. Then I'm going to scrape off my light blue. It's going to go right there. This is where that angle is really helpful for the palette knives. Then my medium blue is going to go over here. Leave some space in between them, you know, because we don't want them all blending together. Like that. And I got to go over to this guy. And then finally, this part over here of my dark blue. Okay, and that's there. I'm going to set this guy back on here. This is all my stuff to clean on those. I got a little bit of paint right here on the side. Like I said, the paint always gets everywhere. Okay, so for storage of our paints, I'm just going to take and I'm going to fold this over like this and pull it tight. And then I'm just going to lightly tap down in between here, just a light pressure there like that. You don't need to really smush this down or anything. And then just kind of roll it over. And so this is going to be how we can store our paints. Now you can put that in the refrigerator if you want. It'll last forever and ever and ever. But just in the room, if it's wrapped in the cellophane like this, then you should be able to keep that fresh to where you use it day after day after day. Because oil paints, the advantage of them is they do not dry out really, really fast. And so that's kind of the deal. So the next day when I come in, I'm going to kind of pull on my ends here, and I'm going to try and find an end of something, you know, on the plastic wrap, and work my way through it. And we're just going to unroll it. Now, it does take a little bit of time to actually find the edge that you're looking for on those, but that's okay. Actually, the more you use it, the more used to it is for it unwrapping for us on those two. Okay, here we go. I used to be able to do this quicker. I must be getting old and can't do things quite as well anymore. There we go, I got it. And we just hopefully will unroll that. It's giving me a little bit more grief than I want. Okay, now that I have those kind of in a place where I can pull them apart, then I have my paints all ready to go again on my little piece of cellophane. And so now I'm ready to add my paints. I just take my brush, and paint on my stuff. I'm ready to go. End of the day, I can take it over once again, just kind of fold it over, boom, 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 and wrap it up like that. And then we're ready to go. So that's the advantage of and what we're going to do with these oil paints. Here, I wanted to point something else out to you too. You'll probably notice that I have little specks of blue all over my desk. That happens with oil paints. Even if you try your very, very best to be clean, you're going to get that stuff on your desk or on what you're doing. So have something down, some protective things down first off. But if you're in the classroom, if somebody comes up and then they try to do a drawing with paper on top of that, that oil paint will stain their paper and ruin their drawing. So we want to make sure that we get this stuff cleaned up really, really well off of the tables that we're using, so we don't get it on ourselves or anything else with that. I do have some spray cleaner in the room that you can spray and be able to clean that extra stuff up. But please, please, please examine your tables, and always at the end of the day, just make sure you're cleaning up after yourselves, and you'll be doing okay. But that's a little bit about mixing the paints.